the Growing Towards God podcast. Here on Growing Towards God, we talk about ways to grow spiritually and hear how God has been working in people's lives. My name is Virginia, and I'm so excited that you're here today. Thank you for listening, so now let's get to the good stuff. Hi, Grammy. Thanks for being on today's podcast.
You're welcome, Virginia. It's my pleasure. Enjoy.
So, as you know, all of my new guests, I do 2 truths and a lie. So, do you have your 2 truths and a lie prepared for me?
I think I do. I'll do my best.
Okay.
I founded and directed Share the Music, and that was from 1999 to 2006, and we still hold reunions, but most of us have died, so we don't have as many people. Number 2, used to be that I would take 3-hour lessons in New York City with a voice teacher, and Hank would drive me back and forth. And 3rd, I was always a very bold, take hold of life child.
I think the lie is the 3rd one.
It's quite true.
Yeah.
I was very shy, awkward, and inward. And I didn't come out of my shell until probably maybe 9th grade. It took a long time.
Yeah.
So would you like for me to mention why I was so shy?
Yeah.
I was the first child in a loving family of 4 girls. I was the oldest. My mother was a musician as well. She directed a choir of 50 in the day, back when we had a big Methodist church, the biggest church in Fairmont. My grandfather was a Methodist minister. So I grew up in the church. I started taking lessons in 3rd grade. There was a music teacher she said, I think you might like to sing, because I would never talk in school. I would just, I just would hide from people. Mm-hmm. And music then became my passion. Mm-hmm. And so I told my mother, I'm going to buy some piano books and teach myself how to play. And she said, well, maybe you better have a teacher. And so in 5th grade, I started lessons. And I've been teaching ever since junior high. Yeah. Somebody, one person or another. But anyway, we moved, I met Hank in New Jersey after I had been going to school in Fairmont, West Virginia. And we moved to Delaware, to West Virginia, back to Delaware, raised the family in Delaware mostly, and then we moved to Massachusetts. And I really think that was a God thing. It's financially tough, but we're with our grandchildren. We have a wonderful church, beautiful friends, and music.
Yeah.
So I'm older, but I'm still teaching, and I plan to until I just fall over the bench.
Don't say that.
As long as they'll have me, I'll keep teaching.
Yeah.
As long as I'm around young people, I feel pretty fulfilled. It's a good life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Music's a good life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something that you're very passionate about. And that's important, that your passion aligns with something you feel like God wants you to do.
Since it's more of that than anything else I've ever done, it must be what he wants me to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I figured that out. Other people tell me that too. Mm-hmm. But I think because that's where I feel most fulfilled that I can give to people. Mm-hmm. It's not just for me, it's a God thing.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about when you chose to follow Jesus and why?
Oh, there was in the 50s, there were a lot of revivals in churches, and all around West Virginia was a church state too. And I was in the balcony. All my friends had said, I give my life to Jesus. It was a wonderful revival meeting. I was shaken like a leaf. This was 8th grade. Mm-hmm. This is before I said I'll be bold. And it took me almost until the end. Anybody else want to come down and say, I follow Jesus? And so I practically raced down the aisle from that balcony, because I wanted to be a part of it, but I was just, don't look at me, But I think Jesus must have pushed me out, because I'd still be hanging back there now, Mm-hmm. So it was that. I didn't want to be left behind. I wanted to be with my friends. It was probably more a fear of being left out than actually following him. Mm-hmm. But that started the turn of events, was that revival.
That's cool. Was it like a revival in the whole state? Or
The whole state was doing it, but this was in Fairmont.
Okay.
So our church was the biggest church in Fairmont, so churches came from all around and joined. And it was mostly young people.
Okay.
50s. You would not know about the 50s.
Yeah.
Church was a big thing. I mean, my mother had a choir of 50. We were expected to go to church every Sunday. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting. The only thing, Virginia, that we didn't do in our family, we didn't walk in that picture carrying a Bible into church. That was not part of it. It was activists do it. But, it was the thing that everybody did because that was our community, church.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like you were necessarily making the decision to go to church all the time, but it was more just, like, this is what we do.
This is our habit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was a good habit because we loved it.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Was there ever a point where you were like, this is more than just a habit and this is something I really want to do?
I think that came on a little later because, I liked all the boys and girls in Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
It was dry teaching, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
It was boring, but I loved being with my friends who were also my school friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I think eventually watching older people that were really centered, like my choir director and organist, both married, mm-hmm. they would fund my opportunities to go to summer camp because we didn't have a lot of money. And they believed in me and they saw in me a potential, I think. And I said, I really like playing the organ. I'll go ahead and do the organ. I think it's after I got into high school that I thought, there's more to it than just be with my friends,
mm-hmm.
and doing activities and youth group and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We were big on that.
Yeah.
But I realized that the Bible did have something to say for me. And I think that was in high school that I finally
mm-hmm.
started really delving in a little bit more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was through more adult people than students my own age.
Yeah. That's really cool. And so, like, how did you grow in your relationship with God? Like, what were some things that you did? And, like, what did you have to overcome in order to really grow closer to Him over the years?
I had to read the Bible. I had to take part in a Bible study. I was always part of a youth group, but it was more activity than it was just doing Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
I think later on, my life has always been full and rich and full of joy and delight. I have had no physical problems until recently. And so I just took things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I saw some of my friends when I was at High Wesleyan get into some problems and have anxious attacks and so on, that's when I realized, and I was actually working as an organist to pay my way through college.
Mm-hmm.
I always did that, all through college. But I think I needed more than just myself to rely on, my pride through my music, what I could do with music. And so I think I started doing more devotional reading.
Mm-hmm.
I would have, now I have sleepless nights, anxious nights, because my shoulders hurt, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that as soon as I say, Jesus, comfort me,
mm-hmm.
I feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I feel better immediately.
Yeah.
I cry a lot, Virginia. I just cry. I cry about everything.
It's okay, I'm a cry
but it's
too.
usually joyful cry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I
That's
know
pretty
that
amazing.
I need him. I do need him more and more all the time.
God, He's always upheld His promises to me in, like, safety and always followed through for me. And that's something that has really made me trust Him a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so have you experienced any other times when God has fulfilled a promise to you?
Oh, my gosh. Well, He's never let me down. He's kept me healthy and so on. There have been times, if I could go on to the miracle or whatever,
mm-hmm.
there were times coming home from teaching in New Jersey when I would teach all day and then I would come home for Christmas and I would be driving by myself in the snow or ice or whatever, and I would get really sleepy and I'd fall asleep at the wheel. And there were times when I could have been killed.
Oh my.
But that was God protecting me. That's a miracle. I knew it was God. And I said to God, you must have better plans for me than I do for myself. Yeah. And that happened 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times.
Because I would come home, I was teaching for about 3 years there. Those were dangerous times because I would just drive fast, the West Virginia hills, there are a lot of curves and so on. And I just remember there's a post right there and the car's aiming right for it. And I woke up. I didn't do that by myself.
Oh my.
I couldn't have done that by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, things like that have happened several times in my life as I've gotten older too. And I know who is the provider of life because I couldn't have saved myself. But I've seen people whose cancer just all of a sudden was gone.
Yeah.
And that was a West Virginia friend. That was a Pennsylvania friend. Wow. Mm-hmm. He does do miracles today, not just the Old Testament. and the
Yeah.
New Testament. And I think that's what I was going to say. What helped me grow was when I decided, and it was later in life, I never did it at your age, and I never did it when I was raising kids. But moving up here 10 years ago, I started reading the Bible start to finish. And I saw the plan, the Old Testament, all the way through, that how he loves his people, deep and wide,
Yeah.
And he disciplines us, as he has me many, many times, and it's not always easy. I have a very impatient streak sometimes, an angry streak, but, if you listen to him, then you do something about it. And I realize I can't depend on myself. It's not good enough. So I've seen broken relationships restored. I've had to restore a couple of my own. I've had to ask for forgiveness, and that's hard. And I've been forgiven. Yeah. So it's a joy.
Do you have any advice for people that are like struggling to forgive someone and like working through that?
You have to listen to them. You can't know what's in somebody else's heart or mind or what's going on in their body. And I would take for granted that they're just like me, but they're not. Nobody's like anybody else. And so if you would just sit and listen to their whole conversation without interrupting, interfering, and thinking what you're going to say next. But Virginia, it's taken me a lifetime.
Yeah.
And now I treasure my friendships even more. Not easy.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Not being a college student, not easy too, because you have a lot of agendas you have to go through in your maturation process. So choose your friends carefully. Make sure you're a friend to them. It's not really easy. Some you have to give up. Some you can't maintain. And I realize that too.
Yeah. It's important to make an effort to be at peace with people and not living in constant strife. And
right.
I feel like it's much better to just have a conversation and get it over with and then move on. Or maybe you are restored, or you just live at peace instead of constantly worrying about the situation.
Good for you if you learn that at your age.
College relationships are a lot different than like high school friendships and relationships, because like you're with each other all the time and like you're so close. So it's like, of course you're going to disagree about things, or like you might hurt someone, but that's just our nature and how things usually go. And no one's perfect, but being quick to forgive and be at peace, because that's what God wants, harmony within his people.
He does. You must speak your piece too. And that's the hard part. And our pride gets in the way. We want to look better to others than maybe we really feel about ourselves. But the sooner you learn it, the better.
Yeah.
And that's my shyness, because sometimes I'm not inclined to say things. And I'll bury it, or I make it harder for that other person because I take it out on them in different ways. Not good. It's not a good thing. So yes, share, listen, pray, forgive a lot. 77 times 77 or whatever it is.
Yeah, 7 times that amount. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then move on with love. Sometimes you just have to move on.
It's true. Do you have a favorite thing about God?
Yeah. He's unchanging. He's always loving. He's ever present. And he wants the very best for you.
We might think that like our way is better, or we have a better idea of how we want our life to go. But God might have a different plan, and that's even better. And that's hard to come to sometimes. Yeah. To realize.
And as we get older, too, we think, we've lived our life the way we wanted it to, and it's fine, too. But, he keeps creating new opportunities, new adventures all the way. And that's, as I get older, I want not to let physical problems stop me from doing things or saying things or experiencing things.
So do you have any advice for younger people, or what would you say to a younger version of yourself?
I would have said, get that time to Jesus early in the morning every day. Start off your day with Jesus. I would say, without a fact, that's the most important thing to do. And pray and listen and read. And even if you can't, the Bible's hard to start on. You need to have somebody to help you with that. It was, for a while there, a time I would just open it anywhere and just find a verse. Now, how does that apply to my day? Now, that's not enough. I like to study a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would say talk to him, make sure you're praying for others, not just for yourself, and have that quiet time. If you have a chance to get a walk in there, fine.
Yeah.
But don't let anybody take that time away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start your day ever without Jesus.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people have a mantra, like mine is, he's my comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say that over and over. But we need him. Don't deny him.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when I know you forget that he exists. You get so caught up in your life, but try not to.
Yeah, you need like a good centering and
you do.
Starting off with truth, because the world is just going to lie to you the rest of the day.
Wow, isn't that the truth?
Someone else said that. That's not my quote. But
oh, yeah, you have to know where your stamina, life force comes from.
Yeah.
You do.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any additional words of wisdom for the listeners who, are learning to grow in their walk with God?
Well, I would just say call on him. Don't think you can do it on yourself. Call on him. He will guide your steps. And I wrote, memorize verses that will carry you through. Mm-hmm. Have something that you can always, in the middle of your anxiety and your frustrations and you're worried about a test or, you feel terrible, memorize verses that can bring you comfort immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Carry him with you.
Yeah, the armor of God.
The
God's
armor,
word
put on the full armor.
Yeah, his armor. Yeah, that's so true. You have to have your swords, your sword of truth to fight off anything.
You got a swashbuckling one?
I don't have I don't have a sword.
Yeah. But, and there's so many good devotions out there. If you find one that you really love, just stick with it. I mean, I have 5 or 6 that I really, really like. So there are a lot of devotions, but I have to be careful that it's not just a devotion of somebody else writing. Get into the Word.
Yeah, reading it for yourself.
Yeah,
too.
So I saved the Bible for last.
The best for
because there are a lot of quotes. People will, at the bottom of those devotions, they'll give me the scriptures, and I'll spend time with those.
Yeah.
So I like a whole hour. I mean, an hour and a half can go by.
Yeah.
Don't get my way. This is my Jesus time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, thank you for your advice, and I really liked hearing more about your life and just the answers that you had to my questions.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you took something meaningful away from this discussion and know that God loves you so much and desires a personal relationship with you. If you'd like to stay up to date with episodes, follow me on Instagram at GrowingTowardsGodPod and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Before I go, I'd like you to take this benediction into your life and let the Lord's goodness empower you today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Have a great rest of your day and catch you next time on the Growing Towards God podcast.